I'm Markus Quirin. I'm a professor of personality and motivation psychology at PFH Göttingen, PFH. So you can hear it's a German city. I am German. And I'm also affiliated with the Technical University of Munich, where I live.
So can you tell me a little bit about your career to date and what you've been studying, etc.?
So there are things that inspired me and that I followed up today. So during my early years studying psychology, I worked as a student assistant in the Department of Cognitive Modeling Methodology. And although I found cognitive psychology extremely interesting, my actual daily thoughts revolved around what motivates individuals, how they feel and how they differ from one another. So I became fascinated by the idea of using methods from cognitive psychology, that is computational modeling, to simulate personality and motivational processes. But it's quite paradoxical that I followed this heart of fascination only recently. What else inspired me is that I was never fully satisfied with existing static descriptive models of personality, as I felt they did not capture the complexity of the human psyche or personality. So early on, I encountered initial approaches to modeling motivation and personality, particularly the models of Norbert Bischoff, John Atkinson, Julius Kuhl, and I've always been convinced that such an explanatory dynamic systems approach is more appropriate way of analyzing the human mind or psyche, personality included, than a purely stochastic approach that makes statements about how individuals of a population behave on just on average. Yes. Well, the mind or the psyche, personality, however you may frame it, are systems. So we need a systems approach.
I think you took this approach at your keynote talk. Is it that you specifically talked about during your keynote talk? And why do you think the audience appreciated it as being different and interesting compared with what's going on in psychology in general?
So my talk was basically about what I'm working on now, my team and I, which includes psychologists and engineers. And we are developing a complex systems model of personality. So based both on behavioral and neuroscientific research. And in this model, needs, motivation, emotion, and cognition interact to generate behavior, particularly approach and avoidance behaviors toward or from social interaction partners, objects, or tasks, whatever. This model captures individual differences and personality through parameters such as the sensitivity and strength of connectivity of psychological subsystems, or we may say so, personality subsystems. Yeah, the model also integrates earlier system models of personality and motivation, while also extending them in several important respects. We do this computational modeling against the background of what may be called, or we call the dynamics of personality approach. So, which means investigating individual differences in the interactions among these psychological components. And well, you also ask why it's interesting, right? Well, I would say it's interesting because it's important. Yeah, the central purpose of any discipline that regards itself as a natural science is to explain its core phenomena. In psychology, this means explaining behavior and experience. In contemporary research in personality or even psychology in general, however, I would say genuine explanation is underrepresented. So explanation as a concept is inherently tied to causality, so to determinism. But much of our field currently relies on purely stochastic, predictive, statistical approaches rather than deterministic and explanatory ones. So to some degree, this tends in contrast to the natural sciences, I would say so. I would even say that it reflects psychology's difficulty in truly moving into the direction of natural sciences while remaining still a part of social sciences. And yeah. Paradoxically, explanation has always been central to the very idea of psychology, both academically, historically, and in lay thinking. So it's actually exactly what draws many young people to study psychology. It's the quest for answers to questions about individuals who are the host of these causal processes, not questions about statistical averages of populations. So people wonder, why does, I don't know, my partner cheat on me? Yeah. Why can I overcome my negative moods and start the project I fully intended to? So these are the questions. They point directly to the causal mechanisms underlying behavior, individual behavior. So this is precisely the focus of the dynamics of personality approach. We simulate the behavior of agents or bots, you may say so, to see whether they act like humans given specific contexts or even like specific individuals, and how their behavior changes when we vary different personality or situational characteristics. It's crucial for personality psychology because, as research has shown, for example, by William Fleason and his team and others, human behavior varies to a degree that cannot be captured by static descriptive personality factors alone. So to truly understand personality as a whole and its impact on behavior, we need to examine the interplay between cognition, emotion, motivation, and volition, and so on, because without such an understanding, cannot identify individual differences in these processes and their interactions, and thus cannot fully understand personality. So it may sound radical, but perhaps it is. I never doubted that it reflects the actual truth. Not least it's important because it implies that we need greater integration among psychology subdisciplines, cognitive, motivational, emotional, social, and others with personality psychology.
Perhaps you might be able to give a little bit of advice to young academics wanting to start psychology, perhaps being interested in personality psychology. As you look back on your amazing career and all the publications and successes you've had, what advice might you give to younger people coming into the profession?
Well, first, maybe three things. First, personality psychologists need to become familiar, unless they already are, probably many are familiar already with systems theoretical thinking and methodology. So personality psychologists should not solely rely on statistical methods. This is what we learn in psychology. So all our methodological, oh, that was far too long. I start over here again. So teaching about methodologies to 90 or 90%, it's statistical methods. But there are also other methods, like from systems theoretical thinking. And so the human psyche, as I said, it's a complex system, and we need to understand and study it as such. And moreover, so secondly, personality psychologists in general should use their experiential knowledge they have gathered from understanding their own behavior and that of others to inform their research. So don't think only in terms of theory or empirical findings from the literature. Perform an experiential plausibility check. Does a finding reported in literature really make sense? For whom does it make sense and for whom does it not? And what could be the moderators that change everything for the individual? Along with the literature, use your experience to generate hypotheses. This approach teaches people much more about psychology more deeply than simply reading empirical papers. It also helps people understand what happens in the world around you. Why people act as they do, why your partner may have left you, or any other interpersonal phenomena. I constantly advise students to do this. So maybe I just, as an emergency solution, I just finalized the third point. Personality or psychologists in general, they should acknowledge theory. So science progresses on two legs, empirics and theory, and only one, and the discipline walks with the limp. And I have the impression our discipline have been limping far too long. So do not discard theoretical considerations of the human psyche, even Freud's ideas, simply because they're old or parts of them did not prove right or are difficult to be proven by the empirical methods that psychology offers, like self-report questionnaires. So do not throw the baby out with the bathwater. Old theories can still inspire hypotheses and guide research. I think our current methods remain limited in capturing the complexity of internal psychological processes. Even when we go beyond questionnaires, computational modeling, as used in the dynamics of personality approach, allows us to test theories not only through measurement, but also by implementing hypotheses about the relationships between variables and within an agent, a person, and observing the agent's behavior. So this way, it provides a powerful way to explore mechanisms that are otherwise difficult to observe or measure. So is an advice to extend one's approach to psychology and using specific methods.
Markus, you talk about helping psychology and personality psychology walk without a limp. I think you've helped personality psychology sprint. So
it would be fantastic, but still, even computational modeling, it needs time. You need to repair bugs in the program, and it needs time. And we need to be funded to have the time to do that. And since we are only publishing, we have to publish, we do not have the time. So it's also a rethinking in the way we get funded and how much we should publish. And as long as this is not the case, I guess we're still limping. We cannot sprint.
Yes, there are a lot of systemic problems that we have to deal with.
Definitely,
but
I guess.
Maybe that's for another time. Let me finish by thanking you, Markus, for spending a little bit of time with us today. And also, perhaps most especially, thank you for coming all the way over to the University of Vienna for the recent ISSID conference. And I, for one, have certainly really enjoyed meeting you, getting to know you, and to listen to your words of wisdom during your keynote speech. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Chris, for inviting me. I feel really flattered. Thank you so much.